Look at these two guys. Same city, same starting salary, same exact job. But 25 years later, one is a millionaire, and the other is staring at a $61,000 retirement account, wondering where it all went wrong. Neither of them ever hit the lottery. Neither of them inherited a dime. The gap between them comes down to one invisible, automated decision. A move so small you wouldn't even notice it, but it is the absolute dividing line between dying broke and building generational wealth. It's a Sunday evening. You're partaking in that quiet, universal ritual of existential dread, pulling up a retirement calculator, inputting your current trajectory, and watching the algorithms spit out a projection for age 65. And the number staring back at you is profoundly inadequate. It never feels like enough. So you close the tab, you pacify your anxiety with a familiar lie. I'll handle this when my income scales. Here is the cold, unvarnished truth that nobody tells you while you are closing that tab. The chasm between those who accumulate $1 million and those who die broke is rarely dictated by income. It isn't a byproduct of generational wealth, luck, or some esoteric investment vehicle reserved for the elite. It comes down to a single mechanical divergence in human behavior, an action so minute it borders on the invisible, yet so powerful it dictates your entire financial destiny. Let's examine our two subjects because the granular details expose the illusion. Person A and Person B both enter the arena at age 25. Both earn $54,000 annually. Both reside in the same mid-tier city navigating an identical landscape of modern expenses. Rent demands roughly $1,400. The vehicle consumes $320. Student loans siphon another $220. The standard, unavoidable architecture of adulthood. After the tax burden, both individuals are capturing roughly $3,600 a month in net liquidity. Once the fixed costs are cleared, they are left with exactly $900 of discretionary capital. This is an identical starting paradigm, same pressure, same suffocating month-to-month reality. Person A deploys that $900 into their lifestyle, not with reckless abandon, but with reasonable, socially acceptable consumption. Weekend dinners, a modest apartment upgrade in year 3, a vehicle that is rotated every half-decade rather than driven into obsolescence. To the outside observer, this represents a completely normal, responsible financial existence. Person B intercepts $300 of that $900 consistently, ruthlessly, starting in year 1. Not the entire amount, not some ascetic, miserable sacrifice, just $300. They still deploy the remaining $600 to enjoy their youth, upgrade their surroundings, and travel. The divergence is literally one automated decision. $300 a month extracted and invested before the ego has a chance to spend it. That is the entire catalyst. Not a superior intellect, not a lucrative promotion. $300. Let's project the math. That $300 monthly allocation deployed into a total market index fund at a historically sound 8% annualized return over 25 years metamorphosizes into just over $1.4 million by age 50. This assumes the contribution gently scales with inflation, the realistic, breathing model of wealth accumulation. Person A at age 50 possesses whatever residual cash sits in checking paired with a fractured retirement account, averaging a statistically devastating $61,000. Same income, same geography, same 25-year timeline. 1.4 million versus 61,000. The only variable was $300 captured at the source before it could evaporate into the ether of daily convenience. The fundamental misconception regarding wealth is that the primary barrier is income. The middle class operates under the delusion that if they can just secure a higher salary, the savings protocol will organically manifest itself. That is not how human psychology functions. That is the trap, and it is exceptionally lethal because it feels entirely logical. Observe what actually occurs when income expands without a structural shift in behavior. At age 30, Person A secures a promotion. $54,000 scales to $64,000. That's roughly $650 of new unallocated net capital every month. And with terrifying speed, their lifestyle expands to absorb every single cent of it. The square footage gets larger, the restaurants get more exclusive. This is not a moral failing, it is the most well-documented phenomenon in behavioral economics. It is the hedonic treadmill. Your consumption will always rise to perfectly match your income automatically unless a mechanism is built to interrupt it. By 40, person A is commanding $78,000 a year. Statistically excellent compensation, yet they are still functionally broke because every incremental raise was neutralized by an incremental upgrade in comfort. The top-line revenue changed drastically. The underlying behavior remained perfectly static. Person B navigates the exact same promotions, but their investment protocol was engineered in year one to automatically capture a percentage of every raise. The decision was never spend first and save the remnants. The doctrine was invest first and let the lifestyle mold itself to the remainder. This structure requires absolutely zero discipline to maintain because the capital vanishes before the brain can even register it as available. Here is the psychological bedrock of the entire equation: decision fatigue paired with present bias. If your financial security relies on you making the active, conscious choice to save money every single month, you are actively fighting your own evolutionary biology. You are demanding that your brain prioritize an abstract reward 30 years from now over a tangible dopamine hit today. You will lose that battle, not because you are weak, but because fighting an optimized consumer economy for 3 consecutive decades is a statistical impossibility. The individuals who actually build generational wealth did not possess superior willpower. They simply removed willpower from the arena entirely. The money moved before the decision could even be entertained. Let us address the most dangerous phase of this journey, the era of psychological friction. At age 30, the delta between person A and person B is trivial, perhaps a few $1,000s. It doesn't feel monumental. By 35, they are maybe $20,000 apart. Both individuals to the outside world appear to be in the exact same socioeconomic tier. This is why the trap is so insidious. For the first 10 years, the discipline is practically invisible. The compounding effect is dormant. Then, around year 15, the mathematics experience a violent awakening. The curve bends, not because the behavior intensified, but because compounding ceases to be linear and becomes fiercely exponential. By year 20, the vast majority of your portfolio's growth is no longer your contributions. It is growth reproducing its own growth. It is capital deployed a decade ago finally doing the heavy lifting. This is precisely why the masses abandon their investments in their late 20s. The payoff structure of compounding is brutally front-loaded with silence and back-loaded with staggering, undeniable wealth. You are watering a seed that appears dormant for a decade, only to watch it eclipse the skyline in year 15. Person A never witnessed the skyline, not because they lacked the capacity, but because their habits could not survive the era of silence. The architects of real wealth do not view investing as a luxury reserved for surplus capital. They view it as a non-negotiable fixed cost, possessing the exact same gravity as their mortgage. They understand that $300 a month at age 25 mathematically obliterates $600 at age 35. You can never recapture a decade of lost compounding, regardless of how aggressively you try to compensate later. And crucially, they do not seek emotional validation from their portfolio. They expect it to be profoundly boring for 10 years. This was never a narrative about sacrifice. Person B still consumed, still traveled, still lived an exceptionally rich life. The separator was not deprivation, it was sequence. A quarter of a century is a vast expanse of time, long enough that the decision you make today, whether $300 is automatically extracted or left exposed to your impulses, feels entirely inconsequential. It is not. It is, mechanically speaking, the absolute dividing line between the two destinies we began with.
Most people fail to become millionaires not because the math was out of reach, but because the action required never transitioned from a fragile daily decision into an unbreakable automated structure. The wealthy are not uniquely intelligent. They simply made the correct decision exactly once and then built a system that ensured they would never have to make it again. It is never about the destination. It is always about the sequence. Pull up your own banking app right now. Look at your automated transfers. What exact percentage of your income is moving before you even wake up on payday? Drop just that percentage number in the comments below. No context, just the number. Let's see who has actually automated their escape.